And hello and welcome, Dr. Rao.
Hi BJ, thank you. Thanks everyone for being here and for soldiering on, right? Yeah, I mean as Ali said yesterday, it's because they dropped the ball at the UN, we are carrying it now.
And they sure did. They dropped the ball big time. They're a commercial asset, it seems like now.
Well,
But
it's not just them. I'm finding the same thing here in India, where I'm supposed to give a talk at my alma mater tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Indian time, and the administration of the college has refused to help the students record the video. I mean, and put it up on YouTube because they're scared. They're scared that their funding will get cut off. I don't know what's going on, but basically that's what it is, right? Again, my alma mater has the major problem in the school is stress, mental stress of the students, which, as you can imagine, is coming from all these environmental issues too, and the students are asking, what are we doing all this for? And yet the administration is not supporting them. So this is a problem, right? So I'm trying to get the alumni network to help the students, and until the officials, get the courage to support their students. Well,
Ready? Are you ready for me to highlight you? And
sure thing. Thank you.
thank you. Spotlight for everybody.
So we have all been meeting now for the 15th time, and it's always been about this, the greatest transformation in human history. And we ask, what is this greatest transformation in human history? It is greater than the agricultural revolution. It's greater than the industrial revolution, the scientific revolution, the internet revolution, you name it. It's greater than even the discovery of fire, because it is the discovery of the spiritual fire within us. So it is a spiritual transformation as well as a civilizational transformation. It's transformation in our entire way of life, and that's what we have been working on for the last 15 meetings. And I wish the UN would take this up seriously, because they would bring so much more resources to bear. I wish the governments of the world would take this up seriously, because again, it's the amount of resources that can be brought to bear. But until they do, we are going to keep at it, and we are going to keep kicking. I really think that it's such a rotten structure filled with fear. People are scared, but when it is fear that's holding things up, it doesn't take much to bring the whole thing down. You can see that in Wei Sheng's trial, where they put a gag order. I mean, so much for freedom of speech, right? Goes out the window as soon as people start poking into the reality of what is going on. So it's holding them to their own, holding their feet to the fire, to whatever fire they've already lit. So that's what this is about, the greatest transformation in human history. I'm going to begin by quoting from Wayne Dyer, who said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And when you look at it from the other side, you say, what in the heck are we all so scared about? It is the greatest transformation in human history. You should be happy and doing it joyfully, because it is, we should be congratulating each other for having accomplished what you've accomplished, and then moving on to the next step. Okay, that's That's taking life as it comes, taking life fearlessly and with love. So that's the switch that we need to do, and we need to help other people also see this switch and to look at things from what we are saying. I'm also going to quote, I heard this quote today, or basically it's yesterday now. Yes, I've been sleeping. And it's a quote from Bradley Miller, who said, "Teaching a child not to step on a caterpillar is just as important to the child as it is to the caterpillar." And I said, no, it's the opposite. You don't have to teach a child not to step on a caterpillar. You have to first teach a child to step on a caterpillar. So it's the opposite. We need to look at it from the other perspective. Children are not born with an innate desire to go step on caterpillars, that we have to then persuade them not to step on a caterpillar. No, you have to teach them first to step on the caterpillar, and that is just as detrimental to the child as it is to the caterpillar. Okay? Children are born with love in their hearts. They see the world with wonder. How do I know that? Because my granddaughter taught me that. She showed me that that's how it works in her life. Okay? So it is our system that's teaching the child first to step on the caterpillar by giving them violent stories, in nursery rhymes. I mean, everything is violent, and then making violence so normal. So we need to reverse that. We need to reverse the way we look at things, and recognize that all of us belong in nature exactly as we are. Every animal belongs in nature exactly as she is, and we all belong in nature exactly as we are. And so this lesson that the elephant taught me, when she's breaking branches of trees, that's where the sunlight streams and nourishes the underbrush. Okay, so the elephant has no choice but to belong in nature exactly as she is. And wherever the elephant is trampling on bushes, that's where new pathways are formed in the forest. Wherever the elephant is pooping, that's where new jackfruit trees are born. In the same way, human beings belong in nature exactly as we are. And we have been doing something incredibly amazing. Okay, a lot of people don't know this, but the earth has gone through 5 major ice ages in its history. Just like it's gone through 5 major extinctions, it's gone through 5 major ice ages in its history. And we are currently in the 5th major ice age. I mean, given all the talk about climate heating, we would think that we have been heating the climate for a long time. No, it's only recently. I mean, we are in an ice age. We are at the end of an ice age. It's called the Quaternary Ice Age. And for the first 2.7 million years of the Quaternary Ice Age, the first million years of the first 1.7 millions of the years of the Quaternary Ice Age, the Earth was going into an ice age every 41,000 years, and then popping out of it for a few thousand years and going back to another ice age, and so on. And it's not regular, it's sort of irregular, like what I'm showing you here in the white. So the white is the temperature of the Earth, and present time is on the right hand side, and this is 650,000 years before present time. And you'll see there are roughly 6 warm periods. So the difference between the high and the low is about 10 degrees Celsius actually. So and it's about 6 warm periods, and the rest of the time the Earth was in an ice age. And the same thing happened in the previous 2.1 million years. It's been like that. And so now, over the last 1 million years, the ice ages have been happening roughly once every 100,000 years. And for the most of the time, it's in an ice age, meaning the Earth is frozen. You get a mile of ice on top of Chicago, so good luck living there. Okay, and then it warms for a short period, so about 10,000 years or 5,000 years. And during this time, the Earth spawned us as a species, and she gave us control of fire 500,000 years ago. She gave us a box of matches and said, "Go, light it up, and heat me up." We didn't do that in earnest until now. Oops. Okay. 50,000 years ago, we were in an ice age, and we were mostly sitting in Africa, okay, as a species. And we formed partnership with wolves, who became our dogs. who lent us their sense of smell, their sense of hearing, and their sense of sight, and allowed us to move out of Africa and go to every part of the world. So imagine our ancestors traveled across the ice during an ice age, traveled across the ice shelf from Russia to North America and came down into North America. I mean, they went throughout the world by using the ice as a way to travel. We spread to every part of the world except Antarctica. And then in the current warm period, which began about 11,700 years ago, it looks exactly like the warm period that happened 3 ice ages ago, but instead of going back to the ice age again 5,000 years ago, temperature stayed flat and then went up. And that's our ancestors doing this work. And so our ancestors have struggled. They have fought so hard to make this happen. Okay? So they struggled, and they were burning down forests, and that's how they increased the CO2 in the atmosphere. They raised rice, and they raised cows, so that allowed the methane to go up as well. And by doing this, we heated up the climate. So they heated up the climate. So the agricultural revolution and the temperature of the earth were basically co-created. Because for the agricultural revolution to happen, the temperature had to stay fairly flat. You have to have this stable climate for you to do agriculture. And so they did that. They kept the temperature constant for 10,000 years. They're burning down forests. So imagine all the work that our ancestors did, all the effort that went into it. But this is all unknowingly. They didn't do it on purpose. It's because they're part of nature. The nature is such a perfect system design that now that we have increased the temperature by 1.2 degrees Celsius from the pre-industrial level, we are facing this choice. And it really is 3 possible choices, not just 2. So I took this figure from William Redimann's book. And you can see William Redimann is assuming that the temperature will go up to about 5 degrees Celsius, from 1 degree Celsius, about 5 degrees Celsius, and then all human beings will die off. So we will all die because we won't have any food to eat if we do something so stupid. And then once we all die off, so he assumes that we are so monumentally incapable of thinking that we will keep heating the planet until we all die off. And then the earth will go back to another ice age. So that's what he's predicting. And I'm saying, actually, if we keep heating the earth until it gets to 5 degrees Celsius, it's likely that the temperature will keep going up forever. And you'll get into the Venus syndrome, in which case the temperature on earth will be 460 degrees Celsius. So those are the 2 options of heating the climate forever. Or you can start trying to cool the climate. That's the green line here. And you try to start cooling the climate, the best you can do is to sort of move it, instead of going straight up, which try to make it go a little bit less straight up, and then eventually pull it down. Okay, so that's what this green line is showing. So eventually you can pull it down and bring it back to the thermostat setting and keep it there. And why do we need to bring it back to the thermostat setting? Because we know that it was stable here. We know it was a stable point for the earth. Okay, so then you can keep it there forever. So that's the third option. And the beauty of this is that if we choose to make this transition today, we can do it today. If you say we're going to wait 5 years, and every time you look at the choices before you, you'll always see these 3 choices. Either heat up and go and die off, or start trying to cool consciously and create the greatest transformation in human history and bring it here. But the problem is, if you wait 5 years, it's going to get a lot harder to do this. So the sooner you decide to go on the green line, the better off we are. Okay? So the soonest you can do it is today. Let's all decide we're going to do it today. And this is why I've been putting pressure on the UN, saying, hey, I'm not coming to your COP28 as long as you're serving meat and dairy. Because then I know you're not serious about addressing the greatest transformation in human history. Show me that you're serious. Because what does vegan mean? It means that you are not going to exploit animals for any purpose whatsoever. It's just a neutral stance. You have to go beyond vegan and start helping the animals. That's how you're going to bring back the wildlife on the planet. Okay? Vegan is just one step at saying, okay, it's a neutral stance, saying I'm not going to exploit anymore. I don't need to exploit anymore, so why should I do it? As a species, we have to have that, we have to just come to that realization that we don't need to use them anymore because we have taken enough from the planet. We have taken most of the planet for ourselves. So it's time to give back. And I've talked about this before. I've shown you that if we just take the data from the UN IPCC and put it together, you will see this. You will see that if we go vegan, we'll return this entire land area of the planet, about 40% of the land area of the planet back to nature. And it's only giving us 12% of the food we eat. So that 12%, if you just take from plant foods, you will need a little bit more land than Africa. Okay, so for those who haven't seen this before, basically it's a mapping of the data from the UN IPCC. So they have the data. They are already looking at the data. So you would say if you're looking at the data and if you have half an ounce of sense, you will realize that you have to go vegan. But it's not sense. I think they have plenty of sense. They don't have the courage. Just like this admin in my college doesn't have the courage to record my video, my presentation, and put it on YouTube. Because they're scared that their funding will get cut off by somebody. You don't have the courage. So, but we need to, infuse that courage in them. We need to transplant it into them. So, basically what we found yesterday, and from the theme of this convergence, is that seafoods, we are destroying the entire ocean, which is 71% of the land of the area of the earth, surface area of the earth. Okay, 71% is the ocean, and we are destroying the entire ocean to get 3% of the food we eat. Does that make any sense? And yet no one is willing to address it seriously. No nation is willing to address it seriously. We have to rely on Captain Paul Watson and his crew to go and help the creatures in the sea. What? Are these governments representing us? Or who the heck are they representing? Just for 3% of our food. It absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. So we know that from the IPCC. They gave us the data saying, we're getting 3% of the food from there. And 97% comes from land. And so 12% comes from animal sources and 85% comes from plant sources. And if you take all the land that we're using to grow plant foods and put it in one place, it will fit inside Australia. If you take all the land that we're using to grow the animal foods and put it in one place, it will cover all of Asia, most of Asia, all of Europe, and a little bit of Africa too. This is the red block. And I actually would take this desert land and assign responsibility for making those deserts to the animal agriculture industry, because that's what it did. Okay? By trying to raise animal food for animals, you're turning forests into deserts. So they did that. So they're responsible for all this. And this is timberland. Basically, 22% of the land area of the planet, we chop down all the trees and replace them with monoculture trees so that we can get paper towels and, toilet paper and timber, lumber for our so-called homes, right? Do you have to build homes with wood? Do you really? Is that the only way we know how to build homes? Do we not know how to do this differently? So I'm an engineer, and when someone comes to me with a problem, I just put everything on the table and say, how would I solve it? The first thing I'm telling you is get rid of animal foods. Okay, but then you have to look at this as well. Do we really need to do this? So that the wild animals are stuck in just 9% of the land area of the planet, and there we are going and burning down another 30 million acres every year. What is wrong with us, right? So this is why we have all these issues. We have to just look at the whole system. So when you look at the whole system, and people have this, planetary boundary framework saying this is how we need to live if you want to stay in the green zone on this planet. We need to look at the stratospheric ozone levels and make sure that we don't go beyond a certain level. So, and that we have done. So it's still green zone. We have to look at the aerosol loading. Aerosols are particles that we put into the atmosphere, and we make sure that we don't put too many particles into the atmosphere and don't go too far out. And that's still in the green zone. And ocean acidification comes from putting CO2 into the atmosphere. So they're saying that the CO2 that we put into the atmosphere hasn't acidified the ocean enough. So it's still in the green zone. It's not going to kill off life in the ocean. And why are these planetary boundaries? They're boundaries, which means that if you violate the boundaries, you are in danger of killing all life as we know it. That's why they are called boundaries. Okay? And there are 6 of those boundaries that are red. They're blinking red. So these are red alarms on your spaceship. Okay? So, and the least violated is freshwater change. So basically we have changed the water cycle of the planet like crazy, and there is not enough fresh water now for the wild animals. So why is this affecting life as we know it? Because it's killing wild animals. They don't have enough fresh water. Ultimately it all comes back to wild animals and what we are doing to them. We think we are okay. We can get fresh water because it's in a bottle, in a plastic bottle, right? You can't drink it straight out of the stream because it's highly polluted, but that's what the wild animals are doing, and they're dying off. So that's still not yet red; it's still orangish, yellow. But still, it's sufficient to kill life as we know it. So that's the least violated. Then comes land system change. So the good news about these 6 violations that I'm showing you is that if the world goes vegan, all 6 of them will go into the green zone. Because if we go vegan, we get 40% of the land area of the planet to restore the forests, and we bring back the forests, then the fresh water will go into the green zone again. Land system change, again, if 40% of the land is given back to nature, this red will go into the green zone. At least it will shrink like crazy, okay, going towards the green zone. The third is CO2, climate change. So this is the 4th worst violated boundary. So it is less than novel entities and nitrogen and phosphorus cycle and the biosphere integrity. Okay, so but yet everybody only talks about climate change. They don't talk about the other stuff. Because if you look at the other stuff, you'll realize you have to go vegan. And here they're trying to pretend it's only fossil fuels. So this kind of deception that's going on in science, and the scientists going along with the deceptions because somebody's paying them a salary. It's just to me, it's just disgusting as an engineer. Because as engineers, we are trained to look at the problem as it shows to us, and deal with it honestly, because otherwise you'll never solve it. So we have to have honest accounting. Even the CO2, they're saying it's CO2 that's causing most of the problems. But look at the radiative forcing. It's worse than the CO2, right? Why? Because it's not just CO2. There are lots of greenhouse gases that you need to worry about. You have to look at the aerosol. So when you look at the whole thing, you say, how much are we heating per square meter of the Earth's surface? And that's given by the radiative forcing. And you will see, when you model this, that you shouldn't be looking at the fossil fuel engine at all for the time being. You should be looking at animal agriculture first. And that's a paper I wrote. So, and we know that here, if you go vegan, you will immediately start sucking it down. Okay, so you will start pulling it in the right direction. Then comes the nitrogen and phosphorus cycles, or novel entities. Take your pick as which is worse. Nitrogen and phosphorus cycles. This comes from the fertilizer that we add to land. Okay, and so this is the chemical fertilizers we add to land. And here again, if we go vegan, then you can stop growing all this food to feed our animals. And half of the fertilizers we're using is to grow feed for animals. So we can stop that. So that will also go into in the right direction, start shrinking. And novel entities, and this is all the chemical pollution. We have cooked up like 100,000 different chemicals that never existed in nature. So we made it up in the lab. And then we have stuck it into all our products without even testing whether they are good or bad. And it's now all over the world. We have plastic pollution, chemical pollution, all kinds of pollution all over the world. Now, if we go vegan and we bring back the forests that we cut, so rewild the land that we release back to nature, then the trees that grow on that land will suck up this chemical pollution and store it in their trunks. Number one. And number two, the chemical pollution that exists today is actually coming to us in the animal foods we eat in highly concentrated doses. Okay, so concentration goes up by a factor of 10 to 100 when you eat animal food versus plant food for the same chemical pollution. So when you eat animal foods, you're loading up on this chemical pollution, and then you get sick, which is exactly what they want. So there again, when we go vegan, you're mitigating it at both ends. You're reducing what stays in the atmosphere or in the environment by growing trees, and you're reducing how much your intake is. And finally, biosphere integrity. And I advise you not to look at the functional integrity. This is, to me, is arrogance of biologists who think that a cow can replace a deer or a reindeer because they're both grazers. What the heck are you talking about? They're different animals, they're different species. Okay, so this is how they're cooking up this functional integrity and making it look shorter. I look at biosphere integrity. To me, I have to start by saying I do not understand the ecological system completely, and therefore I'm going to minimize how I mess with it. So I'm going to leave the diversity of species as they are and not pretend that cows can replace reindeer. So when you look at this is the worst violated. Why? Because every other transgression is impacting this. And in addition, we're going around in helicopters and killing wild animals. Is this the thing you should be doing when you're dying off on this planet? Is this a smart thing to do? I mean, when I was in IIT, we used to have a term called tube light. For someone who takes a long time to figure out something, we used to call them tube lights. So, I mean, it wasn't very nice to call them tube lights, but that's what I feel like people are around me, The UN is acting like tube lights. It's taking them a while to figure out that veganism is a solution to all 6 of these. And climate change has the potential to just become the worst among all 6. Why? Because it has all these nonlinear feedback loops. And these nonlinear feedback loops are saying, if you don't take care of this, I'm going to go out of control. So you can have runaway climate change. Because nature will say, you want to heat the climate? Okay, I'll help you. And that's what she's been saying. Okay, so I'll help you. And if you want to heat it even more, fine. I'll make it really hot for you. And so those are the 6 nonlinear feedback loops that are in the less than 2 degrees Celsius range. There are 6 of them. And we are already at 1.2. So we don't even know whether we have triggered them or not. Because these are nonlinear feedback loops that can take off from one to the other. And you won't know that you've just taken off until the climate has gone out of control. So the only way to know whether they've taken off or not, whether they've already triggered or not, is to start cooling the climate. So start cooling it as quickly as possible. And only then, and then check if these nonlinear feedback loops are responding in the right direction. If they're responding in the right direction, then you're fine. Okay, we haven't triggered them yet. And therefore you can now restore the climate back to what it was. But if they don't respond, then the climate is going to try to go the other way. Okay, you're trying to cool it, nature is trying to heat it. And then you have to cool it faster and faster and faster until nature responds in the right direction. So this is why it is so important to go vegan as quickly as possible. And this is why it's important for us to convince others, that this And we need to tell them, look, it's like they don't know the signals. If they knew the signals, they'll be doing it, right? And if you look at the data, the raw data, it already tells me that animal agriculture is responsible for at least 87% is the paper I wrote. And I mean, I've written about, I think 23 papers that have been peer reviewed, okay? And of all the 23 papers that are peer reviewed, no paper has received as much scrutiny as this one. None of my papers have received as much scrutiny as this one. People have been trying to break it, okay, showing that it's wrong, and they've all failed so far. And not only have they failed, I'm actually now telling them it is 118%, not 87%. Why? Because the 6th assessment report of the UN IPCC updated the numbers on soil. And when you take the updated numbers on the soil, my lower bound goes up to 118%. So what does it mean that one sector is responsible for more than 100% of emissions? What does it mean? It means that if you shut down that sector and you let all the other sectors continue as they are, you will look up and see that the climate is actually cooling around you. Hello? Isn't that what you want? Isn't that what we all want? And is it not possible that one sector is so powerful that if you shut it off, and you don't even have to go plant forests, folks. It's a lower bound. It's an engineering lower bound, meaning I'm saying I can actually deduce from the data that much vegetation is already growing on that land today. Why? Because I'm calculating how much CO2 is embedded in the food that the animals are already eating on that land. So this is why it's an engineering lower bound. So I'm staking my reputation as an engineer, saying, if you do this, I guarantee to you the climate will start cooling, even if you don't do anything to the fossil fuel engine. But of course, you have to eventually do something to the fossil fuel engine. Okay, and so this is the updated climate bathtub model based on the 6th assessment report and the fact that 2 years have passed since I issued the first climate bathtub model, and the UN has done absolutely nothing. And the governments have done absolutely nothing. They've been pretending to do something, not doing anything. Okay, you have to hold their feet to the fire. So we have, so now the bathtub has 1100 liters of water, not 1000 liters, because we added another 50 liters. The burning machine is still pouring 35 liters per minute. The killing machine is pouring 15 liters per minute. The burning machine is still connected to 350 liters of aerosol tank. Okay, so this is updated numbers. I mean, still same as the old numbers. And for every 1 liter per minute that you turn off the burning machine faucet, it will pour 10 liters out of the aerosol tank into the bathtub. So which means if you shut off the fossil fuel engine right now, you're going to kill the baby. So stop talking about just fossil fuels. You have to shut off the killing machine. And now if you shut off the killing machine, for every 1 liter per minute that you turn off this faucet, it's going to open the drain and let 3 liters per minute pour out of it. So it's 45 liters, not 30 liters from the drain of the bathtub. Which means now if you shut off the killing machine, you're going to turn off this 15 liters per minute, it's going to open up and let 45 liters pour out. So then you have 35 liters pouring in, 45 liters pouring out, and you will see the bathtub level go down by 10 liters every minute. So 1 minute is like 1 year in reality, right? So which means every year you'll see, a little bit decrease in the heating of the planet. Okay? But then, the tank will fill up at 45 liters per minute. It will fill up in about 50 years or less than 50 years. So by that time, you better figure out how to turn off the burning machine. Otherwise, it's going to keep pouring water into the bathtub. Okay, and then it won't. The baby will drown too. Okay, so there is an order in which you have to do things, and you have to turn off the burning machine as well, but you have to first turn off the killing machine as quickly as possible. That is the sensible thing to do. And does the UN not have any engineers? Among the 2,000 odd climate scientists who are sitting there at the UN, it's not a single engineer who can do this, who can actually look at this and say, how do I solve this problem? Are they all frozen in fear so that they cannot say what they have to say? I mean, how do we get them a transplant, a spinal transplant? You know? So, but think about it. I mean, this is a project that our ancestors have been working on for 500,000 years. It's as if we've been running a marathon, 26.2 miles of the marathon. We have completed 26.197 miles. We have only 14 feet to the finish line. This is our generation. We have to do this. And so and see, our ancestors so far have been heating. So going in this direction. We have to now cool, which is turning around. It's a U-turn. You have to make a U-turn and start cooling. So you have to make a U-turn to get to the finish line. And then there is a clown out there telling you to come into the McDonald's. Saying, don't turn, come into the McDonald's and you can have some burgers. And as a marathoner, will you take that detour? Isn't it extreme to take a detour into the McDonald's when you're running a marathon? So that is the extreme thing to do, to keep doing what you're doing. Given the data that you have available to you, as I said, I mean, just like Kim Williams said about cardiologists, you're either vegan or you have to get out of here, get out of this planet, and go to Mars or something. So you're either vegan or you haven't understood the data. So the data is screaming at us to do this. This is the journey we have to do. So it's all about our relationship with life, our relationships with other life. Right now we are killing them, killing animals, exploiting them and destroying life. That's our system. So you have to stop the killing, go vegan and restore life. That's a different system. It's a different system that we have to create. Okay. So as Reinhold Niebuhr said, evil is to be traced not back to the individual but to the collective behavior of humanity. These are all good people who are stuck and who are scared, who don't know how to speak up and take and do the right thing. So, but it's such a rotten system. I really think that if we go kick it, give it a swift kick, the whole damn thing will collapse because it's such a rotten system. It's built on lies and delusions. So the medical system, think about the medical system. Lifestyle medicine, ACLM, had this graphic showing the 8 risky behaviors that are responsible for 90% of total healthcare costs worldwide and that drive 15 chronic diseases. Diabetes, artery disease, hypertension, back pain, all these things are driven by these 8 risky behaviors. And the thing is, these 8 risky behaviors are encouraged in the current system. Poor diet is encouraged. We teach our children to eat poorly. Physical inactivity is encouraged in the system. They want to suck you into this the smartphone and make you just sit there, right? Looking at the next notification. So physical inactivity is encouraged. Smoking is encouraged. Lack of health screening, So they tell you, hey, you have to pay this much if you want to go get a screening of health. Poor stress management. In fact, the thing is to stress people. That's what they do. They're trying to stress people. The students at IIT that I'm going to talk to tomorrow. I mean, the major problem they have is mental illness because they're all stressed out. And yet, the administration is not even letting them record their talk and put it up. They're just adding to the stress. Insufficient sleep, poor standard of care, and excessive alcohol consumption. And this comes from disconnection with nature. So these are the 8 risky behaviors that are encouraged in the system because 90% of the healthcare industry depends on it. If everybody starts getting healthy, the whole 90% of the healthcare industry collapses. And my God, the pharmaceutical companies, they're going to have to shrink. What a tragedy, right? But they have to shrink. This has been going on for hundreds of years, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what colonialism did to India. And so there was a video by The Guardian showing that how British colonialism increased diabetes in South Asians today. I mean, I don't blame the British for this, okay? They are all part of the system too. In fact, I love the British. I mean, I love their sense of humor, and they've given so much to the world. But it's a system we are stuck in, and it's a system. It's not the British. It's the English East India Company that ruled India. And between 1800 and 1945, India suffered through 25 famines. And nearly 100 million people died of famines. This is normal. And these famines were engineered. They were engineered in order to persuade Indians to get on a ship and become indentured labor. So they can go and work in the sugar plantations of Jamaica, in Fiji. So the British government needed, not the government, the English East India Company needed all these laborers everywhere, and there was plenty of labor in India, but Indians were happy because they had plenty of food, and they wouldn't go and do any labor because they could eat. They had plenty of free food. This is growing everywhere. Because before the British came, there was nobody paid for food in India. That was the culture. The culture was food was free. Okay? So if you ask me why I am so passionate about food healers, this is it. My ancestors suffered through this. 25 famines. And because of those 25 famines, the people who survived were the ones who could store fat easily. Because they had a reserve of fat when the famines hit, and they were able to use that fat to survive through the famine. And now Indians, South Asians, get diabetes at 4 times the rate of Europeans for the same BMI. Why? Because they store fat easily, and it's going in and lining up their arteries and and their cells, and basically diabetes happens. So diabetes happens, heart disease happens, and I'm here in India saying, hey guys, this happened to us, and now we are stuck in this state where we get diabetes easily, we get heart disease easily, so we have a responsibility to take care of ourselves. Okay, and get out of this and help everybody else get out of this. And one of the main lies that they use, and these are not lies, these are omissions of truth, okay? One of the main omissions of truth that they use to convince people to continue eating animal foods is that animal foods have protein. Only animal foods have protein. Well, here are all the amino acids that we need, okay? The essential amino acids, the non-essential amino acids. They're all color-coded beautifully. And here is the data on amino acids in foods. So take a look. Every plant food has every color. Just like every animal food has every color. Okay? Every plant food has every color because there's protein in everything. All amino acids are in every plant food. All plant foods have all amino acids. So excuse me, there is no need to mix and match. Okay? You just eat. You eat enough calories, you'll get plenty of protein. And who told you that the ideal protein is animal protein? That is also an outright lie. That's a lie. Why? It's like saying the ideal food for a lion is another lion. The ideal food for a giraffe is another giraffe. The ideal food for an elephant is another elephant. The ideal food for a human is another human. This is the level of biology that you know. Is that what the hell you're treating? I mean, that's what you're teaching people? It's a disgrace, okay, that medical schools don't teach this to people, or even high schools. I mean, this should be common knowledge in schools, that all plant foods have all amino acids. And yet, the only thing that children are taught is that protein comes from meat or animal foods. And this is how they persuade us to continue the system. Okay? So I say that when we go vegan and we become healthy, it's as if we have taken You've taken something where they've put us into a cylinder. They've just squashed us into the cylinder, and you're just bursting out of it. So I say, do the exact opposite of the risky behaviors. You'll get the healing activations. From a poor diet, go to a healthy vegan diet, and that is number one. And Dr. John McDougall told me that 60% of the healthcare costs come from just this one, poor diet. The other 30% comes from the other 7. So his estimate is that 60% of the costs come from this one thing. So go to a healthy vegan diet, and then regular exercise, number 2. Conscious breathing instead of smoking. So do the opposite, right? Conscious breathing, pranayama. So this is yogasana, regular exercise, yogasana, pranayama, then regular health checkups, meditation and awareness. So, to me, this is so resonant in India. It should be resonant in India because I'm talking about yogasana, pranayama, meditation. These are all things that we invented here, right? So I'm telling Indians, you need to lead this. This is the bursting out of the cylinder and flowering of humanity has to begin. And this is a spiritual transformation. It's a spiritual transformation that needs to begin here. From insufficient sleep, get to adequate rest and sleep. Know that you belong exactly as you are. You belong. So there's no need for anxiety on that. And you have a sense of purpose. Why? Because as soon as you admit that you're changing the climate of the planet, you own the climate of the planet. You have a job to do. This is exactly what Kimaya was telling me. Go do your job, right? I have a job to do. We all have a job to do. And she was actually channeling the animals, I realize now, right? The animals are telling humans, you have a job to do. Go do it. And you're now sleeping on the job. And finally, from excessive alcohol consumption, it's contact with nature. And what better way to have contact with nature than to bring back the wildlife, the forest that we cut? So I say, go live in Sadhana forest, right? And do exactly what Sadhana forest is doing. Sadhana forest, there are 70 acres, and it needs about 40 people. Roughly about 40 people stay there all the time in order to maintain the forest and make sure it's healthy. So that's 70 acres. Now if you have to reforest 14 billion acres of land, which is how much land will get freed up when we all go vegan, for 14 billion acres of land, at 40 people per 70 acres, I calculate that you need 8 billion people to restore the forests of the planet. And there are 8 billion of us. Hello, we know what to do. When we stop this nonsense that we are doing. When I look at people, engineers, going and designing some Hello Kitty doll which waves its hand, this is what you're doing? After all the studying that you did, you go and design that? When you have a planet that's just dying in front of you? So, food healers to me is the foundation of the new system. Healthy food should be free. I refuse to go through another famine, a manufactured famine, an engineered famine, which is what will happen if we keep heating up the planet, keep burning down forests, and keep insisting that everybody has to eat meat. That's what's going to happen. That's already happening now, right? They're killing people. Except now it's not so obvious. It's not in one place. They're not doing it, openly. They're doing it underhandedly. So let's address it from the grassroots. You have extra food, figure out how to give it away. Figure out how to make healthy food out of it and give it away. And I say it's our responsibility to also take care of ourselves, take care of our bodies so that we get healthy. That's the oxygen mask rule. Get healthy and then you can help others. So put on your own oxygen mask and help others. And you know what Sarah is doing out there in Los Angeles. I'm so grateful to the work that they're doing there. Getting volunteers and farmers together and then going and doing outreach for veganism when people come and people ask, why are you giving away food like this? And then the outreach happens. When people's stomach are full, their hearts are open and they are willing to hear you. So that's the best place to do outreach. And I also found out that in India, you can feed anyone, not just human beings. You can feed any animal, any wild animal. You can feed anyone, and no one can say no to you. Why? Because it's in the constitution of India. That you have to that showing compassion to all life is your duty as a citizen of India. So that's something that we discussed yesterday at this conference that I'm in. So food healers, I really think food healers can flourish. So this is the way to connect people who have food with those who want to eat food, and people who want to get volunteers to come and help out. So all of these things should be made easy. To find extra food. So if you have extra food, you should be able to say, I have extra food here. And then someone can say, I want to use that. Okay. So that's what we're trying to do with this software. So you create an app that helps people, connects people, and ensures that there can never be another famine like they engineered in India. 25 of them they engineered in India, right? Over 140 years. And before that, before 1800, India had 17 famines over the last 2000 years. So even that, we can avoid, because there's plenty of food on this planet for all of us. If we pretend that we don't have enough food, how in the heck are the wild animals going to eat anything? So we need to bring back their food, and we have to make sure that we get fed when we are doing that. So this is an app which allows you to post an event, you can donate food to any event, and you can volunteer at an event or keep track of your donation history, and usually share your volunteer successes with social network. So making it easy for us to do food healers. Okay. It has the recipes that we can use, and so even and these are all whole food plant-based recipes. And I've taken it from I told the team to just scan from the web, and then give the credit to those that you scan from. So if people complain to us saying you shouldn't use our recipe, they'll take it out. But right now we're just going to say stop us. So volunteer at an event, and then you can donate food, you can donate supplies, and so hopefully by the end of November, we're going to have this thing completely done. Okay. So I'm visiting the team in Bangalore as well. That's part of my trip here today, this time, the software team, and there you are. I'm going to stop talking. Wow. Took me a long time to cover that.
Awesome, Dr. Rao. Beautiful.